Good morning and welcome to the Morning Scoop for Thursday, April 15th. This is your daily Buckeye fix. I'm Tom Orr. The Minnesota game is in 140 days, the game against Michigan in 226 days. We are also now just 2 days away from the Ohio State spring game. It'll be the first chance about 20,000 people or so will get to watch their team in person in more than a year. Plenty more, of course, will be watching on TV and getting their first glimpse of this year's team. But as we've all probably learned over the years, what you see during the spring game is no guarantee of either great or bad performance in the fall. So what should you be looking for when you watch the game on Saturday? Buckeye Scoop's X's and O's guru Ross Fulton joins me today. And Ross, what's something people can look for during the spring game that might tell them something meaningful about what the team might look like this fall?
Yeah, the thing that I'm going to be looking the most for is what the defense looks like. I expect it to largely schematically be the same, but the big personnel shift that I'm expecting, just based on what I've been hearing from you and others who have been at practice and talking to the team, is instead of playing a traditional Sam linebacker, have more of a nickel hybrid safety linebacker type, if you want to call it the bullet, if we're still using that term. I think that they're going to do that full time. And, those guys have been practicing with the safeties. It seems that they have a group, Craig Young, Ronnie Hickman, probably Court Williams when he comes back, dedicated to that position. And so, I think that that will make them more versatile on defense, which I think is, necessary. I was banging the drum all year last year for them to do that. And so, they in fact may use variations where Craig Young plays on, early downs and Ronnie Hickman plays on later downs, but they're both able to do safety things. So that's, to me, that is the thing that I'm looking the most for.
Yeah, and I think people probably know that the team is going to keep things fairly vanilla on Saturday. If they have some incredible unstoppable fake punt, they are probably not going to roll that out and put it on TV in April for no reason. So, yeah, I think the reports out of practice have been that we're expecting a totally different defensive look potentially this fall, with a little bit more of like a positionless shift, like the equivalent of positionless basketball, basically. I don't expect we're going to see anything close to that whole thing finally actually being rolled out on Saturday. So, is that the one thing that you're viewing as potentially like a tell that yes, things are going to be different this weekend? Is there anything else that you would look for, like guys in different positions or different combinations of personnel, or is it really just kind of like we may get little tiny glimpses and that's pretty much all you're expecting?
Yeah, I think it'd be more glimpses. To your point, what you're describing, positionless. I think that sounds to me like a lot of what you see in the NFL on third down, with guys kind of up in stimulated pressures. And, I doubt we see that. I do think we'll see this hybrid safety bullet position, because it sounds like what they're practicing. I don't think they have a Sam linebacker this year, or in the traditional sense. It's, from what I've seen of practice, it looks like Pope is playing inside. So I think they really have two inside linebackers. But I do think, I'll also be looking for, how much cover one are they playing versus cover three versus, do they mix in some split safety stuff? To me, that's like, they'll probably be vanilla, you can't be like totally devoid of doing anything, and you got to do what you've been practicing. I don't think that gives away the game, so to speak, or anything. So, I'll look for those kind of things, how much are things, at least on defense, the same or different versus last year?
Now, there's always a big risk of people reading way too much into the spring game, and that can be for good or for ill. There have been 14 other practices this spring. Fans obviously are only really getting to see this one for the entirety of it. And I'm sure the quarterback position is going to be right at the top of the list of things that people are watching. But you got to remember they're working behind a patchwork offensive line, and there's like a mishmash of receivers out there, and they're going against a shorthanded defensive backfield. So, the final stat lines may not really mean as much as it would in a real game, obviously. But, what should people be looking at to get a decent sense for how all three of those young quarterbacks are playing? How are you evaluating the quarterbacks when you're, it's not, it's a game situation, but it's not really a game situation?
Yeah, I won't worry too much about the stat lines. What I'll be looking for is sort of off the bat. I assume that they'll go 1-versus-1s, at least initially. Maybe I'm wrong, but I wouldn't think that they, particularly with the offensive line, I think you generally want to keep the guys together that have been playing together. I know that, obviously Miller's out, who know, guys like Thayer Munford or Chris Olave, they may just get held out. Maybe they'll play a series, even if they're totally healthy. But I would look at least off the bat, who trots out there first. I do think with the first string offensive line, I do think that's a little bit of a tell. And then, for all of them, you just want to see like how much of the offense do they trust them to run? What's their timing like? Are they getting rid of the football? Are they throwing in rhythm? And it's sort of how they're processing, I guess, if you will.
Are there one or two other positions where you think we might actually learn something meaningful on Saturday? Whether it's about which guy is going to win the job or, maybe some other kind of tip off. I mean, like sort of like what you talked about with the bullet, another kind of tip off to a schematic move they might be looking at making in the fall. Like what, there's a lot of noise, but, is there anywhere you think there might be some signal that we might be able to learn from this weekend?
Yeah, I think at any position, I mean, I think offensive line is one for sure. Where again, I think you'll get some sort of hints as to, in terms of like the interior, for instance, in position battles with, Matt Jones and Luke Whippler, like who's maybe a little bit ahead right now based on who plays with the first string. Similarly, I think with like younger players, like a Jack Sawyer or Travion Henderson, like how much do they get to, are they utilized with the other first string? I think you'll get to see maybe a little bit of the pecking order at tailback. And again, who's going with the first ones, who's going with the twos? Are they playing earlier? Are they playing later? I would presume that again, like the first series or two, especially, will probably be where you'll get more like pure one-on-one, ones versus ones, and then probably mixed match as it goes on.
Well, you may have anticipated my final question there, but I was going to ask, is there one or two of those true freshmen that you're most excited to see this weekend? I mean, they've got 13 on campus already, so that you have a lot to choose from. So who are you most interested in watching? And what is a realistic expectation? For that person, what would be like a meaningful this is someone who's really potentially ready to contribute this fall?
Yeah, I mean, again, I obviously Henderson, Sawyer too, who I would be looking forward to contribute this fall. I think it'd be great if, like one of the freshman corners can emerge just because they're so thin at the position. Nevada said such great things about Harrison, so it'll be interesting to see him. But I think anything, even beyond just like how they perform, again, it's like, who are they playing with? What are the situations they're put in? Because that just sort of tells me what the coaching staff's thinking about them, and whether they see them as like ready to contribute. Are they playing with the other ones? How do they, you kind of get a sense as you're watching, depending on how it's set up, as to who they think's ready to be, a contributor this fall, and who's sort of playing in situations where they'll probably, be a backup.
Is there anything with the defensive backfield being as thin as it is? No Seven Banks, no Cam Brown, and obviously there are some issues there back at that back end of that defense last year. Is there anything that you could see that would be, this is a major, major concern moving forward? Or does the defensive backfield kind of get a little bit of a pass this spring just because of all of the injuries and them being so shorthanded right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think they'll get a little bit of a pass with their corners out, but then again, I do want to see how much cover one man they run this weekend, because that will tell me how much they believe that they could do it next fall. I know Kerry Combs at the beginning of spring basically said that like cover one man needs to be our fastball, and or essentially their base defense. And he's like, if we can't do it, then we need to figure that out quickly and change. So if we're seeing it, a lot of it, I guess that shows that they have confidence that they can do it. And if, at some level, if we don't see a lot of it, then maybe they think that this is not going to be the year to do it. So, it's a weird juxtaposition, because they do need more variety from what they've done last year, but they also, it would be nice to know that they can play man coverage, because it is the base of their defense.
Well, Ross, thank you very much for joining in this morning. Greatly appreciate your time and your insight on all of this stuff. A lot to look forward to this weekend as the Buckeyes are getting set for that spring game on Saturday. We will have a ton of coverage in the lead up to and after the game as well, all at BuckeyeScoop.com. Tony Gerdeman and I will be there. We'll have photo galleries and interviews and insights and articles and pregame shows and postgame shows, all sorts of stuff. Everything you could possibly want to know about this weekend's spring game will all be at BuckeyeScoop.com. That would make this a pretty good time to become a member as well, because we've had some really fascinating insights on our Ask the Insiders board this week. Great reports from Nevada Buck on some stuff that's developing inside inside the walls of the Woody Hayes Athletic Center right now. He has had a fantastic report on the special teams earlier this week, and as well as a bunch of other stuff on young guys who are kind of taking that next step, quarterbacks, the quarterback race, and where things stand right now. Great stuff from Nevada Buck, all on our Ask the Insiders board. All you have to do to get access is become a member of BuckeyeScoop.com. You can go right there, sign up. It is the price of like 2 coffees at Starbucks. So instead of going through the drive-through and just make coffee at home, a couple days, and ta-da, you have paid for your month of BuckeyeScoop.com. Have plenty of exciting stuff to cover all spring, all summer, and into the fall, and it certainly looks like it should be another fun season of Ohio State football this year. Also, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/BuckeyeScoop. That, of course, is totally free. And if you subscribe, you get notified every time we drop a new video. We should have interviews with the wide receivers a little bit later on today. So you can find those there, as well as all of our great podcasts, inside practice videos, football camp videos as Mark Givler and Mick Walker and our whole recruiting team goes and scouts players in person. All of that and so much more at youtube.com/BuckeyeScoop. And finally, subscribe to all of our great podcasts. Just go on whatever podcast platform you like, search Buckeye Scoop, and you can subscribe right there and then get every episode of those shows downloaded directly to your phone. It also helps if you leave us a 5-star rating and review. That will help other folks find those shows as well. That'll do it for today. Thank you guys for joining us. Have a great day. We will talk to you tomorrow.